What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'm going to rate some of your team selections for game week 1. We've got 6 different teams to go through. Some of them are on early bench boost. Some have Haaland, some have Salah, some have neither. So lots of different variations. I'll give my opinion plus alternatives as well. Let's get into it. So the first draft we're going to look at is 4 at the back with Haaland instead of Salah. So it's a 4-3-3 formation. My first thoughts when I saw this team was that if you're going to go big at the back, you should probably spend more money on your defence. 3 of the defenders are 4.5 million. None of them individually are bad picks, De Kuiper, Juve and Dorgu. But I think if you're going to play a back 4 fairly regularly, then you should spend a bit more money. Dewsbury Hall is on the bench, so as long as he gets regular minutes, you do have some backup. Some games you can play 3-4-3, so not a major issue. But that was just my first thoughts. I like the more aggressive defender picks in Aït-Nouri and Frimpong. I think both of them look likely to start the season. We know what they're capable of from an attacking point of view. Wait and see what Slot says about Bradley in case he's back soon. But Frimpong will definitely start in game week 1. And Aït-Nouri looks like a pretty sure thing as well. Juve and Dorgu do rotate quite nicely. So that's not too bad. You've always got one of those options you can play each week. And like I said, Dewsbury Hall can come off. I think Peru is a long-term risk. I know Leeds haven't signed the new number 9 yet, but they probably will before the transfer window shuts. As soon as that happens, his minutes become an issue. In the short term, it's probably not a problem. He's only 5.5. He should be on penalties, but that is something you're going to have to deal with sooner rather than later. And then you've got the same thing with Gakpo. It might be that Liverpool don't sign a new left winger, in which case Gakpo is an amazing option at 7.5. And I think he's perfectly fine for the first 3 or 4 weeks. It's just longer term, I'm not so sure. But ultimately, you've got Haaland, Watkins, Palmer and Fernandes. You've had to make some sacrifices. So I understand the 4.5 million picks. And it does come out with a 92% rating on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool. So it's pretty strong. So I quite like it. I just want a bit more money in defence. So maybe I downgrade someone like Watkins or Gakpo to just go a bit stronger there. So this second draft is a 3-5-2 formation with the intention to bench boost in game week 2. That's why there's a Burnley defensive double up of Dubravka and Esteve. At the time of recording, we don't yet know if Dubravka is going to be fit for game week 1, but as soon as he is fit, I'm pretty confident he'll be first choice, and they do play Sunderland at home in game week 2. Worst case scenario, you put your bench boost off for a future week. It's not that big of an issue, I don't think. One thing to say on bench boost game week 2 though, everyone is earmarking Burnley because of Sunderland at home, but you could argue they should be in your 11. So if I run this team through the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub, and by the way, if you want to get your rating for free, link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen, game week 1 for this team comes out 94% team rating, so pretty good. If I go to game week 2 and click Optimize, actually it puts Dubravka and Esteve in the 11, because it's Sunderland at home. And whatever you think about Burnley's chances to stay up this season, that is their best fixture all year. So you actually probably would want to play them. So the actual bench, according to the My Team tool in game week 2, is Sanchez against West Ham away, Anderson against Palace away, and Nico Williams against Palace away, and then Pedro Porro against Man City away, which isn't quite so good, although we know he's attacking and can get defensive contributions. So by the way, that bench is still perfectly fine, but don't think just because you've got Burnley players, they're definitely on your bench in game week 2. I probably would play Esteve over Porro, as stupid as it sounds when you say it out loud. And by the way, if you want to see future weeks and make use of all the other tools on Fantasy Football Hub, there's 50% off at the moment. And if you don't win your mini league, you will get your money back. Terms and conditions apply. Link in the description below. Just looking at the rest of this team, because I do think it's set up pretty well. Thiago for Brentford is okay. I'm pretty sure he's going to start the season, but there's some risk there because Visser is still there. Maybe he doesn't leave before the transfer window shuts, although I find that hard to believe. And they might sign a new forward. That's another problem. So just be aware of that. Maybe go to Fulkrug from West Ham instead. I love the Forest defensive double up. I'm very tempted to do something similar. Nico Williams and Murillo, probably the best 2 options at their price point in that team. Sales and Tarkowski is also an option instead of Sanchez and Murillo. So if you're not confident in Sanchez's minutes, then you could make that change instead. But I think Sanchez is fine. Unless they get majorly linked to a new goalkeeper, he's going to start the season. There's some risk with Reinders, but I think most people already know that. Hopefully he plays in the number 10 role, but I just think with Rodri out, he's probably going to play deeper. And I don't think there's a guarantee that he's great for defensive contributions. But for 5.5 million, I completely get the risk. Obviously, it looks strong because you've got Palmer, Fernandes, Salah and Watkins. I just don't know about 2 5.5s. Reinders and Anderson. It's a weird one because individually they're both good options. So actually it should be fine to have them both. But I just think I would want probably a 6.5 in there instead. So maybe you make a downgrade in defence. Maybe you just take Thiago down as well and just make a few sacrifices just to upgrade one of Reinders or Anderson. That's completely up to you. And like I said, the bench boost in Game Week 2 might not be quite what you're imagining, but it still looks pretty good. And you can always pivot to a later game week instead. Next up, we've got a no Salah, no Haaland draft, which comes out with a 95% team rating. So it's a really strong squad overall. And I definitely think it's viable to start the season if you're able for it. And what I mean by that is, will you be able to cope when you inevitably get a bad week and people are posting their scores on social media with a big Salah captaincy score or a big Haaland captaincy score? If you can, then great, go for it. And let's bear in mind, people with Salah and or Haaland will also have bad weeks as well, but it tends to be a little bit easier to cope with it because you know you've still got those big hitters the following week. So these kind of drafts are for a certain type of FPL manager, and you've got to be confident making different captaincy choices every week. So in this case, you've gone for Wirtz. I personally like Palmer. In Game Week 3, you're probably going to have to captain Bruno Fernandes against Burnley, for example. If you're ready and able for that, absolutely consider a draft like this. I really like the spread of funds. You've got Palmer, Wirtz, Marmoush and Fernandes, so it's a really solid midfield, plus Watkins and João Pedro up front, and 3 £6 million defenders. I'd definitely be wary of Vardiol because he didn't feature in the only pre-season game that Man City had because he wasn't fit. So he's not a guarantee to start in Game Week 1. I would probably go to 8 Nuri if you're going to go for a Man City defender, or just choose a different team instead. Marmoush could be an absolute monster of a differential. He's someone that I am considering. I don't think I'll go with it because I do like going for players with absolutely secure minutes, but I'm pretty sure he's going to start the season. His goal threat is decent, and he's going to probably score the second most amount of goals in that team behind Haaland this year. So I really like him. I love Sarr at 6.5 million as well. I've spoken about that quite a lot. While João Pedro probably won't make my team, I still think he's a really good pick. And with Juve and Dorgu on the bench, you've got an option each week to cover you if something goes wrong, because you've got Juve, Sunderland away in Game Week 1. Dorgu's got like Burnley at home in 3, Sunderland at home in 7. They rotate quite well. And I like Cucurella as well. I think he's probably been a little bit underrated by me because the fixtures are quite good to start. We know he can be attacking. So he's a good pick. And then Van Dijk's your safe pick. If you want to go a bit more aggressive, because most of the choices here are pretty much nailed on, you could look at Frimpong instead of Van Dijk. But the long-term pick for minutes, goal threat, and defensive contributions is definitely Van Dijk from Liverpool. So this next team passes the vibes check. It's very differential, which I kind of love, but I don't think it passes the points potential check, which is a problem. 84% team rating. It's so different, I've got to read the whole thing out. So Pickford in goal, back 3, Vardiol, Frimpong, Reece James from Chelsea, Dewsbury Hall, Paquetá, Palmer and Gakpo, the midfield 4. And then Ekitike from Liverpool, Šeško from Man United, 2 new signings up front alongside Haaland. So really strong front line. Then Dubravka, Reinders, Truffert from Bournemouth and Rodon from Leeds on the bench. I think there's issues with this team, if I'm honest. So Pickford in goal, I can't really say he's a bad pick because he has been the highest scoring goalkeeper for the last 2 seasons. But it does feel expensive at 5.5. You kind of want to pay closer to 5 million for him. If I'm going 5.5, I'm probably just buying Raya from Arsenal. Otherwise, I think just go down to 5 and use that money elsewhere in the team. Vardy, I've already mentioned, is a slight risk. I would get rid of him. Frimpong, I like. Reece James is a no-go. He's an absolute avoid. We all remember that right wing-back Reece James, really good from an attacking point of view, defensive returns as well. He's not that guy anymore. As soon as Champions League kicks up, he will not be able to start week in, week out, like weekend, midweek, weekend, etc. You don't know if he's going to play right back in midfield. They've got other options. He's a really easy avoid for me. Dewsbury Hall, I like as long as he gets minutes. They're not guaranteed, but I do like the punt at 5 million. Paquetá at 6 million, really good option if he stays. The links with him being transferred out from Chelsea have died down. He's not bad for defensive contributions. He will get you the odd attack and return. And I think he's first choice penalty taker. And the fixtures aren't bad. You could look at Tielemans for the same price. But they're being linked with a move for Asensio, who obviously they had on loan for a bit last year. If that happens, he'll probably take penalties ahead of Tielemans. So Paquetá, I think at 6 million is probably slightly better right now. Palmer we know all about already. Gakpo's a nice punt. Ekitike could be amazing. But I am like 90-95% sure Isak's going to be a Liverpool player before the end of the window. So you could just have Ekitike for Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, and then maybe look to get rid. But that feels bad because it's Burnley away in Game Week 4. So I think he's too risky. Šeško, I think there's better 7.5 million options. Not guaranteed to start in game week 1, although he could. I like Mateta, João Pedro, etc. And even with your Bournemouth defender, I actually don't hate Bournemouth defence because they will strengthen that squad overall, even though they've lost a lot of players. There are some good games early on. You could rotate your 4.5 in. But I go for Senesi because he's better for defensive contributions. I'm not sure whether Truffert will get enough attacking returns to be better than Senesi. And then with Rodon, I do think Leeds will be stronger than Burnley this year. But actually, if you look at the first 8 game weeks, if you're not playing Rodon in game week 1 against Everton at home, he's not that useful to you. Whereas Esteve has got Sunderland at home in 2, Nottingham Forest at home in 5, and Leeds at home in 8. So there are more times where you might want to use him. So it's a fun team. I'm not sure it's going to score a huge amount of points, but it's also not awful at all. Like Reece James and Vardy will have to go. Everyone else you could make an argument for. So I've just run that team through the My Team tool again on the Fantasy Football Hub app on my phone. It's come out at an 87% team rating now, so it looks like some of the player projections have gone up a little bit. What I'm more interested in, though, is the AI transfer. So if I click that at the top, the tool will suggest me different players instead. So unsurprisingly, Reece James out is one of those transfers. Milenkovic from Forest, who's not as good as Murillo for defensive contributions, but is much better for goal threat. Not a bad option at all. And then Šeško to Mateta is the other one. So I can just make those 2 transfers and then go back to my team. And you can see there that if I click optimize, it should look a little bit better. Then it comes out at the 92% team rating. So if you're not quite sure about your team and you want to get some AI suggested transfers, you can use that part of the tool. And there's 50% off at the moment. And like I said, if you sign up and don't win your mini league, you will get your money back. Terms and conditions apply. All the links you need, description below. So this next team I really like. It's a 3-5-2 again with Salah over Haaland, but it's also Saka over Cole Palmer as well. And it comes out at the 97% team rating. So according to the My Team tool, this is the strongest draft in this video. What I really like about it is there's no weak point. So up front, you've got Watkins and Mateta. In goal, it's a 5 million goalkeeper Sanchez. The back 3 is Milenkovic, Pedro Porro and Saliba. So lots of money in defence. You've got Anderson and Esteve on the bench to cover. And then the midfield is Saka, Anderson, Salah, Wirtz and Tielemans. It did take me a few seconds to realise where the downgrade is. And that is, compared to my team, for example, that you don't have Bruno Fernandes. So I am constantly going back and forth about Wirtz versus Watkins. You've decided to keep them both and get rid of Bruno instead, which is absolutely fine. So I think it looks really strong. I guess Anderson and Tielemans is not too much different to having Reinders and Anderson. I'd prefer a little bit more money in that Tielemans spot, but he's not an issue. Even without penalties, he's going to pick up somewhat consistent points. I mentioned just a minute ago, I think Murillo is probably better than Milenkovic, but it's a really close call. I don't hate either option. Saliba, I think, is a really underwhelming pick. If you're going to go Arsenal, you've got to go for Gabriel, because neither of them are that good for defensive contributions. They obviously play in the best defence in the league, which is great. But Gabriel is so much better for goal threat. Yes, Saliba can get you a goal, but if I'm putting my money on every week which of the 2 is going to score, it's always going to be Gabriel. Saka over Palmer is fine. I wouldn't try and strongly talk you out of that. I prefer Palmer because the fixtures are better. He'll definitely keep penalties. Saka might lose them to Gyökeres. That's my concern. But in game week 2, you've arguably got the best captain. Leeds at home for Arsenal. And actually, despite Gyökeres probably getting penalties, that's not a guarantee. His minutes are also not as guaranteed as Saka's early on. I think Gyökeres will start. Don't panic about that. But Saka definitely starts. And I think you want that certainty with captain. So right now, things might change after game week 1. I'd probably choose Saka over Gyökeres against Leeds at home. And then the Eze transfer rumours continue, which is only good for Mateta. If he's full-time, first-choice penalty taker, that just makes him such a good option. So really strong draft, like it, not too much to fault there. So this next team is from another FPL manager that's considering an early bench boost. To me, it looks like bench boost game week 1 with the way that the team is set up. And there are a few differentials in there, so I'll just go through the whole team. Sells in goal, I think he's a perfectly reasonable option for 5 million. You could make arguments that he's better than Sanchez in the first 6 weeks. I like both of them. The defenders in this team, none of them are really in for defensive contributions, which is interesting. They're all just really attacking defenders instead, which I absolutely don't hate. My gut instinct is we probably should be focused at least a little bit on defensive contributions. It's a new metric that FPL have introduced. There will be plenty of points on offer, but I don't hate the idea of going old school and just going for more attacking players. So the back 3 for game week 1 is Juve, Sunderland away, who looks great, probably going to be more attacking than Wan-Bissaka in that West Ham team. Pedro Porro and Frimpong, who's captain. I love that. That's an utterly maverick move. There is no Haaland or Salah in this team. That could pay off big. He'll definitely start game week 1. I'm confident of that. And on the bench is De Kuiper and Dorgu. And again, Dorgu and Juve rotate quite well. I will say, if you're going to bench boost game week 1 and you're thinking about an early wildcard, I'd probably just go for a defender with a better game week 1 fixture. I know Juve and Dorgu rotate, but you could go and get like Van de Ven with Burnley at home, or even Konza maybe against Newcastle at home, although that's not that exciting, I will grant you that. Midfield, Njai leads away. I still like him. I think he's going to be first choice for a little while. He'll still be on penalties. I do worry about the Grealish and Dewsbury Hall signings, though. What might happen? Will Njai's minutes drop? Even if his starts don't drop, will he start getting subbed off a bit earlier? We'll have to wait and see. I will say I'm in the minority with that opinion. Everyone else just keeps telling me he's absolutely nailed on. What are you on about? So take what I say with a pinch of salt. Jorginho Rutter, really interesting differential to start the season with. There was 2 teams that played in Brighton's final pre-season games. One looked like a B team. The other one looked like the main team. In the main team, he started number 9. So he's competing with Welbeck, and he can play number 10 as well. So I think he will start game week 1. I'm just not sure which position. And Fulham at home is a good fixture. Then Bruno Fernandes, Wirtz and Palmer. Up front, João Pedro and Gyökeres, who I am more and more confident in after the final couple of pre-season games for Arsenal, because he started both. Havertz had an injury, so he started one game. Then Havertz was on the bench for the final game. I think Gyökeres starts in game week 1 against Man United away. And if that all goes well, he's going to start in game week 2, and he'll probably just keep that number 9 role. So I'm more confident in him as a pick now than I was when he initially signed, because I thought Havertz would be a big problem. I do think he's going to get subbed early, though. At the start, not long term. He could come off like 70, 75 minutes, and Havertz just plays up front instead. So my preference is still to go for Watkins, but I don't hate the Gyökeres pick by any means. Ekitike on the bench, be realistic with your bench boost. I mean, I get it, right? You could argue that all 7 of your attackers are really good, but you're not going to play Njai over Ekitike or Ruta over Ekitike. So he goes into the 11. That changes what your bench boost looks like a little bit in game week 1, but it's decent enough. So lots of different drafts to consider, lots of opinions on different players. Hopefully you found that video useful. If you did, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Get your team rated for free over on the My Team tool using the link in the description below, or scanning the QR code on screen. Do that before game week 1. And if you want to make use of all the other tools, you can sign up for Fantasy Football Hub as well with 50% off at the moment. I'll leave that one there, and I'll be back soon with another video.